Hey guys, welcome back to Urology 101. And today I want to talk about some urinary symptoms. And we'll try and focus a little bit on some stuff that you can do at home to try and reduce some of the symptoms. Just in general, define a few terms for you. Kind of talk about what happens inside of your bladder and inside your body when some of these things come up and are issues. What you can expect to have in terms of conversation with your physician, potentially a few diagnoses, and just try and get some understanding out there about how to really go forward with this stuff. Now, when we talk about the irritate avoiding symptoms, like going to the bathroom too often, which is frequency, or having this sudden like urge that you just, wow, you need to get to the bathroom right away, that's urgency. And then the other one being what's called nocturia, or getting up to urinate 2, 3, 4 times at night. Some of these things can really branch off into different areas in urology. And so I'm going to try and focus this a little bit. Hopefully, it doesn't get too broad. And in the long run, probably need to branch each of these types of complaints out to try and drill down on them, give a little bit more information. But let's start off with kind of what happens in your body when you need to go to the bathroom and you have that sudden urge. Because I think specifically, I see a lot of women in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s who come in like, I'm going to the bathroom all the time. I have an urge. I feel like I have a small bladder. We have to get out of the car every 20 or 30 minutes. It drives my friends nuts, or it drives my husband nuts, and I want to solve this problem, and it drives me crazy. Every now and then we get patients who come in and say, I have to, every time I go out, I have to know exactly where the bathroom is in a place, and I'm not willing to go out to a new place that doesn't have a bathroom that I know where it is. And that is a significant effect on someone's quality of life. And if that's you, if you fit into anywhere in that world, then I hope this gives you a little bit of help and some context. So, the first thing I want to do is, let's say you have something to drink or you have something to eat, and ultimately that makes its way to your bladder. And the example I tend to use is coffee. So anybody knows, yes, coffee is good for bowel movements, but also anybody who drinks coffee tends to be in the bathroom urinating within like 30 minutes to 45 minutes or so, because coffee, one, is a diuretic, but two, it has stuff in it that irritates the bladder lining. And so there are a lot of things that we eat and drink every day that can give us these symptoms where they get into our body, they go through the bloodstream, they get metabolized, they find their way down the kidneys, down the ureters, into the bladder, and then the metabolites there can get on the bladder wall lining, that what's called mucosa. It feels kind of like or looks kind of like the inside of your cheek, and it can really irritate that. And then that irritation is sensed in your bladder as a reason to want to get rid of it. So what you sense in your brain, or the signals that get back to your head, are, hey, I need to go to the bathroom, whatever's in here, I'm full, or it's really toxic and bothering me and I need to get this out. That's what your brain tells you, and you sense that as urgency or the need to run to the bathroom. Now, if you can't get to the bathroom in time and you leak a little bit of urine, that's called urinary urge incontinence. And all of that fits sort of inside the spectrum of overactive bladder. Now, this is different from what's called stress urinary incontinence, and that's where people would laugh or cough or sneeze or jump up and down or go from a sitting to standing position and leak a little bit of urine. That does happen sometimes after women have had children. That can also just happen, unfortunately, when women get into their 40s and 50s, and can happen for a few different reasons. Sometimes the urge can cause the stress and vice versa, and it does take a urologist to help you figure out which is which. But in general, there are spectrums where some people sit on the stress urge incontinence, or excuse me, the stress incontinence side and the urge incontinence side. And there can be a mixture, but most women have more of one versus the other. And some of these can affect guys as well, but it does tend to be something that affects women more. Now, apart from coffee, there are other things that are really notorious for causing these types of symptoms. And it's really good to start to recognize behavior patterns. So, what I'll tell my patients is try and think of days that are either really good or really bad, and pay attention. What did you do during that day? Or if there are 5 or 6 hours in the day where you just had miserable symptoms, what were you eating and drinking during that time? What did you have before then? And try and start to develop and understand some patterns in your behaviors that either improve the situation at home or make it worse. because understanding that can at least arm you with the knowledge so that you can make changes if you need to, or if you don't want to at least know, hey, I'm going to have some problems for the next few hours and I'm just going to work with it. But at least then you have the knowledge and you can choose to apply it however you wish. So the other ones other than coffee are the common offenders. So a lot of the fun stuff, unfortunately. So coffee, tea, alcohol, caffeinated beverages, spicy foods, tomatoes, artificial sweeteners. And there are more, sometimes chocolate gets in that list. There are other things, but for the most part, a lot of stuff has artificial sweeteners. And so I want to drill down on that one for a second because there are lots of things in foods, specifically boxed, canned foods, things that have expiration dates that are like 1 or 2 years down the road that will have preservatives and artificial sweeteners. And sometimes those can be sort of sneaky and cause these types of symptoms. So there are lots of people and nutritionists and good knowledge out there about ways to eat healthy and healthy behaviors. And those might, if you have a lot of the foods on those lists, I mean, in terms of the list that can cause the urgency, really give a look at some of the experts in the field on the nutrition side of things to see if there are ways to improve what you're putting in your body and see if that makes a difference. Because there is a lot of behavior modification that you can do at home that can really help with this. And the reason I'm kind of going on that and really sticking to it is because Western medicine is great at solving acute problems. If you have a broken, like for instance, if you have a broken bone, we can do a great job of fixing that. If you have cancer, we've gotten phenomenally better at treatments. And there are a lot of things that come up that are new problems that we're great at. But chronic, annoying things that affect your quality of life, like low back pain, or overactive bladder, or bloating, and some of these things, we're not great at fixing those problems. And we have a lot of medications that treat symptoms, but they don't cure the problem. And I think a lot of times some of the cure rests with changing behaviors. And so it's not really pushing off responsibility, it's just trying to help you understand that there are things that each of us do in our own lives and behaviors that genuinely affect how our days go. And all of that's important. There are people who are real experts on sleep. I think sleep's important. There are people who are experts on exercise, and certainly having the right amounts of exercise and sleep and nutrition and just healthy living, stress reduction. It's easy to say that stuff, but finding people who are good at helping you with that, especially if any one of those takes a light bulb and turns that on and makes you think, oh man, yeah, I got this. Yeah, that's true. That's probably going on for me. That's really what I want to get across. So I hope that helps. That's an initial start into voiding dysfunction. We'll branch it out from there with some of the medications, some of the different worlds for it. All right? Have a good day. Take care of yourselves and take care of families. I'll see you soon.